You're going to be under arrest.
For what?
For not listening to me.
I think the emergency is the video, somebody's videotaping.
Okay. And the shirt says, I believe, balls deep. He says his name is Captain Awesome.
Hey guys, Rogue Nation here with you today, and we're doing a little bit different of a story. Today we're not going to do a video per se, although we're going to watch some videos. Subscriber reached out to me. She was in my chat a couple weeks back. Her name was Ruby, and she said she had been falsely arrested for drug trafficking, and that she had some documentation on it, and you know, video footage, whatever, that said she was exonerated. So she sent me the links. We're going to go over some of these links now, and then we're going to go over a joint oversight hearing on the use of law enforcement confidential informants, and we're just going to read a little bit of that because this is widespread, definitely widespread, all over the nation. So I know people don't like to think that this stuff happens, but it does happen, right? So alright, we're going to get into the video here.
Well, they charged her for a crime she knew she did not commit. And despite years of pressure from county prosecutors, the San Antonio mother refused to plead guilty.
So how did she end up in this situation?
October 2nd, 2017 is the day Ruby Sandoval's world turned upside down. The day deputies with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Unit raided her home.
I just see them running up on the rest of them running behind them. And I'm looking, and they're just going straight to the back room. And they go, okay, it's right here, it's right here. And they pick me up and put cuffs on me and sit me on the couch, which was right in front of that window.
But she says what came next simply left her stunned.
Then they come out and they're just, like I said, they're just holding up that big bag. And yeah, I had to take a big breath. Yeah, kind of.
Ruby was in big trouble because that bag contained more than 2 pounds of methamphetamine, over 1,000 grams, making her look like a drug trafficker.
Okay, real quick, guys, I just want to point out that 2 pounds of methamphetamine, I looked this up earlier, and, you know, back in the early 2000s, which was like 15 years before this arrest, but a pound of meth back then was going for like $5,000 to $10,000, right, depending on the quality or whatever, $5,000 to $15,000, but let's just say it's on the low end, right? Let's just say it's on the low end, and, this guy planted $10,000 worth of drugs in her apartment, right? So, or her house. So we'll get back to that. 2 pounds. Remember that, 2 pounds.
All right, so it turns out she had been framed by a secret informant working with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
And now investigative reporter Tim Gerber is here with us with more on his 1-hour special, Necessary Evil, the cost of confidential informants.
Now, Tim, you found the same informant had also framed at least 3 other people, same exact way, right?
Yeah, so this all happened in 2017. The informant was arrested in July and charged with possession of methamphetamine with intent to deliver. He ended up getting an offer from the prosecutors at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office that if he would work for them and become an informant and provide 2 more cases about the similar amount of drugs, they would drop his cases. So they used him as an informant.
Okay, did you hear that? He had to get 2 more cases with about the similar amount of drugs. So I'm guessing this guy got busted with around 2 pounds of methamphetamine, right? And they said, look, we need 2 more busts with around the same amount of methamphetamines. Who thinks it's logical that this guy went out? Okay, so let's say, again, on the low end, $5,000 for a pound of meth, 2 pounds at each location. He framed people in 2 different homes. That would be, on the low end, $20,000 that this guy had to front up to frame these people, right? But what I'm thinking is that the sheriff's department actually had a hand in them framing these people and planting the evidence. And the reason why I say that is because I have a feeling that what they did was they just used the drugs that was on the gentleman and to have him go and plant these drugs in these people's homes. You know, I don't think they picked out the homes. I think he did that himself. But, you know, I think they, you know, put these drugs, you know, that they busted him with, put him right back into his hands, right? Because let's be honest. I mean, who's going to spend $20,000 to frame somebody, you know, to frame a couple of people? You know, I don't even think he would have that kind of money. But let's continue on real quick.
Informant, and this was the first time they were using him. So the folks that you see here, this was another house right before Ruby Sandoval, who we just showed a couple weeks before her arrest. These folks at West Hermosa were arrested, and it turned out that right before the Bexar County Sheriff's Office raided the home, a man had shown up to the house with a little girl in a backpack. They went and used the bathroom. When they came back, the backpack wasn't there. A few minutes later, the sheriff's office comes and raids, and they find 2 pounds of methamphetamine hidden in the bathroom. And it was very similar to what happened to Ruby. However, the same man who was working as an informant who knew her asked her to hold some items because he was getting kicked out of his house and had a box and said, hey, can you store this for a while? And he comes over with this little girl and she stores the box. And, you know, the next day he's sending her text messages saying, do you still have my box? Can I come pick it up? And it was those text messages that really unraveled this whole thing that showed that this guy was setting up people. So not only her, but those 3 people there. And they ended up having to go back and redo all these cases, and they dismissed them and found that these folks were actually innocent.
So, Tim, I know you've been working on this project.
All right, we can stop that there, but you could see the cases were similar. They found out the guy was setting people up, and these people were exonerated. But I think, again, it's more than just the simple that he was setting them up. I think the cops were involved, at least with the supplying of the evidence, you know, to use against these people. I don't think it was a simple, oh, hey, why don't you tell us, you know, who would have 2 pounds of meth in their home, right? So, you know, take that for what it's worth, you know. They obviously know that he knows, you know, drug users. So if he was to inform on some already confirmed and prosecuted drug users, the cops don't care one way or another. You know, criminal's a criminal, right? It's not like he's doing this to quote-unquote innocent people, right? Even though they're innocent of this crime, they've been convicted of using drugs in the past or, you know, something of that nature. So, that, you know, the cops aren't worried about it there. But just incredible. Thank God that she had those, you know, text messages and was able to prove her innocence. And luckily she was able to get, you know, the other people off with that evidence as well. So let's go over here. Give me a second. We're going to go over and we're going to look at this hearing. This isn't a hearing video-wise, right? This is a typed out transcript of the hearing, right? So, and I will include this link in the description below, as well as the links that Ruby sent me, which has a nice playlist of all the videos having to do with her story in specific, her and the other folks' story. It's got all the news reports and everything, so you guys can go through and look through all that. I didn't want to, you know, play a whole bunch of news clips, make the video, you know, crazy long. But let's read a little bit of this here. And it says, it is important to be clear that the type of informant that this hearing is being convened to discuss is not the ones addressing We are not addressing the ones concerned with members of the community who work with the police to improve their neighborhoods, nor are we addressing criminal defendants who, as a part of their plea bargain, provide law enforcement with factual information and work undercover to expose their associates in crime. Today we are discussing those who seek to avoid punishment for their own crimes, or dishonest people who seek payments from law enforcement and then provide false information that implicates innocent people. We are also addressing the lack of departmental oversight over some offices and departments, which have enabled some officers and informants to perpetrate some of the more heinous civil rights violations in recent memory. And it goes on. For example, in 2002, an uncorroborated word of an informant led to the arrest of 15% of a town's African American men between 18 and 34. 15% of the population of the town's African American population. That's insane. In another city, a corrupt police officer's informant planted phony drugs on mostly Mexican immigrants who spoke little English. Using bogus field drug tests and capitalizing on the defendant's lack of English skills, police officers enticed the defendants to plead guilty before the actual lab results uncovered the ruse. The informant had been paid approximately $220,000 for his services. One of the more shocking violations recently is the tragedy that befell the 92-year-old Catherine Johnston of Atlanta, Georgia, last year. Ms. Johnson, an innocent woman, was shot to death in her Atlanta home when police officers burst into her house to execute a search warrant obtained through a false affidavit. Police officers claimed that an informant had bought drugs at Mr. Johnston's home, which was a fabrication. And then it says, perhaps the most disturbing is the effect the false testimony has in death sentences. One study has shown that almost half of the documented wrongful capital convictions have included false information from an informant. In at least one instance, a death row inmate was within a week of execution before DNA testing uncovered the truth that a jailhouse informant seeking leniency for her own crimes invented her testimony to send an innocent man to death row. So this is definitely an issue that we have, right? You got people that want to not go to jail, right? They've committed crimes, they don't want to go to jail, so they might do whatever they have to do, right? And again, this is the joint hearing before the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'll link it in the description there. It's law enforcement confidential informant practices. But this is something that the majority of Americans are not aware of. They're not aware of this kind of activity because they don't engage in drug use, right? Or drug trafficking or the use of confidential informants, or, they see stuff on the news every once in a while and they're like, oh man, that's crazy. That's insane, I'm so glad that doesn't happen here, but it does happen there. It happens everywhere. As you can see, this is an actual hearing before the United States Congress. So it's not like was just out in Austin, Texas with that lady, right? It happens all over the damn country, all the time. So, alright guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to bring Ruby's story to everyone's attention. Give the link so everybody could check that out. And I wanted to bring the light a little bit more on this hearing that they had, so everybody can look it over again at their leisure and see exactly, some of the issues that, we're facing, the American public is facing in this war on citizens, right? And this war on generating revenue, right? So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I'll probably premiere this tonight, so you probably see me in the chat there. Let me know what you think as this is going on. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. We got a few good ones coming up, including some of my own audits, so be on the lookout. Thanks, guys.